Are there any other practical examples of multimodal strategies educators or instructional designers like you and I can use without overwhelming themselves or their learners?
Yeah, and again, we hit on some examples, but one of the most powerful ones, or the one I see a lot of times, is pair explanation with application. So if you're explaining a concept, right, it's a little more abstract, and sometimes that's a little harder for a learner to kind of grasp onto. So provide a concrete application that'll help the learner make that connection between the abstract idea and its actual application. So and you can do that with different modes, right? Maybe you got a written explanation and you got a diagram or a short video of application, right? And you can kind of pair those modes together. And we could kind of talk a little bit about dual coding. So the dual coding theory basically says that we process information in our brain in different areas depending on how we receive it. So uh, you know when we read something and when we hear something, it's processed in the same part of the brain, but our visual is processed in another part. So ideally, you want to get multiple parts of the brain activated during the learning that you're going through. So if you have written text and then an image, you're hitting two. You're hitting the auditory, they call it auditory control or auditory loop, and the visual cortex at the same time. So you increase the potential chances of retention. Where you see this fail a lot is when you have, say, a PowerPoint slide deck that's got text heavy and the narrator is basically just talking. Well, naturally, a learner is just going to start reading what's on the slide, and they're trying to listen to what the narrator's saying. Well, it's being processed in the same part of the brain. It's very difficult. You can even test this for yourself. Listen to a podcast and read something at the same time and see how much retention you have of either afterwards. Right. It'll probably be pretty low. Right. So thinking through how that is, how we're pairing those different parts of the brain together to increase chances of retention. Neuroscientists say, that neurons that fire together wire together. Right. So if we get different parts of the brain activated, we're increasing chances of retention. Notice I say increasing chances. It doesn't guarantee anything, but we're setting the learner up right for success in capturing that information and retaining that information. So that's just some couple of things, just to hit fairly lightly too is, I like to say use discussions with purpose. So, I've seen so many discussion forums. Again, we're talking in kind of the asynchronous adult learning context here, where it's almost like a mini essay, right? And okay, the discussion question's there to help meet some of that social learning aspects. If it's a mini essay and it's got kind of a right or wrong answer, it's not serving your purpose of that social aspect. So when we think about discussions, think about the purpose that it's trying to achieve and then design it that way. So you're now aligning that with meeting that goal, and make the discussion not a checkbox activity for the student anymore, right?
Right.
And make it where it's purposeful and they find value in doing it. Just as an example, again, in instructional design field, one of the things that I've done with discussion forums is I make them like labs. So there's like an experiment that a student will do, and then they show their results and they can have a discussion with their peers on those results. Right. And it's very much
Mm.
oriented towards the instructional design. So it might be something like, divine, like, experiment with AI to design a mini lesson and see what it comes up and then share your results, right? And then have that discussion on how well it did and what it missed and how you can make it better. And that tends to be more intrinsically valued by the student than doing that kind of traditional discussion form.